Okay, hello there, everyone, and welcome to today's District Administration Web Seminar. It's great to have you all with us here today. My name is Kurt Isley Durley. I'm the Web Seminar Editor here at DA, and I'll be your moderator. The title of our event, as you see here, is Evaluating E-Learning Resources for Computer Science Learning at Home, and is being brought to you through the generous support of our sponsor for today, LEGO Education. First off, as members of our audience are still coming in here, a bit of background about our topic for today, what we'll be learning about. We are, of course, facing unprecedented times in education right now. School districts are looking for ways to deliver learning services remotely and in new ways. Today we're looking at how to support computer science in adding to a middle school curriculum both at school and at home, seeing as there is an overwhelming amount of resources in this area available to teachers. What is most valuable and how should it be used? We'll be looking at some ideas and strategies for ways to help you integrate STEAM learning and computer science into grades 6 through 8 for at-home learning in your school district. We're looking forward to an interesting presentation and discussion here, plus live Q&A, so do stay tuned. We're going to get started in just a minute or two here. First off, though, just some brief housekeeping. First item, as it says here, if you need technical support at any time, you can use the chat panel that you should see at the right margin of your screen there. Just select the name of our event host and producer. His name is Jason York, and let him know if you're having any difficulties. He'll be able to help you out there. Also, the second item here, if you don't have computer speakers, if you have trouble with your computer audio, or if you prefer to listen privately, we will post the phone number and access code in that chat panel at the right there. If you need it at any time, you can dial that to get audio access over the phone. Third item here, as I said earlier, we welcome your questions. Feel free, if you have a question at any time, just enter it in the Q&A, the bottom right-hand corner of the screen there. Just make sure it's set to all panelists, like it says on the slide. We'll get to as many questions as we can during the Q&A at the end of the presentation here. So once again, if you have a question at any time, feel free to just enter it in the Q&A bottom right-hand corner there. Let's see. Speaking of questions, we are commonly asked, as it says last item here, about accessing the presentation at a later time. And the answer is yes. Everyone who registered or attended here today will be getting a follow-up email with links to the slides. And we are recording here, and you'll be able to access this recording if you want to go back over it or share with anyone on your team, any of your colleagues at your district. You'll be able to do that later on. So don't worry about that. We'll make all the content available to everybody. Okay, so with that, on to our program. Today we're very fortunate to have with us Betsy Bell is Instructional Specialist in the Montgomery County Public Schools there in Maryland. We're also joined by Kelly Redden. She's Solutions Engineer at LEGO Education. Kelly is going to start us off here. So with that, I'll turn it over to her. Kelly, it's great to have you with us. Welcome to our web seminar today.
Thank you for having us. We're very happy to be here. So at LEGO Education, our mission is to inspire and develop the builders of tomorrow. We don't mean the people who are going to continue to play with bricks. What we're really focused on are the builders of ideas, the builder of new technology, those type of builders where they need to be creative, they need to have a lot of different skills, and they need to be able to collaborate and work with other people. So that is where we are very much interested in getting that type of building. Now, the second thing I wanted to say is that we have a lot of ways that you can learn about what we're doing at LEGO Education through different accounts. And so you have access to all of those. Next, what I really want to talk about is this changing nature of work. that is what has hit you directly right now. So we talk about what specific skills we're going to need in the future. Well, we need them right now. That's the combination of tech and problem solving and critical thinking. And that's something that you have had to do in the last month and especially critically in the last couple of weeks. But you've had to do that in a way that you also are using your soft skills, perseverance in constant changing things, constant new problems arising. And you've had to do it in a collaborative way with your teams and your groups in the schools and school districts. And you had to be empathetical to people who are on your teams who are struggling, and they need to be showing some empathy and compassion back toward you to make this really work. And what have we had to do? We have had to accelerate what kinds of decision making we have in both education and in the areas of health. And those have definitely crossed borders with one another and really come into focus in the last couple of weeks. So why are we interested in computer science? Why is that a big difference? So the first one is that in the 21st century skills set, which we kind of just talked about a little bit, we need to be able to do that. We're not talking about computer science in the sense that one person sits alone in a little room by themselves making code. That's a portion of computer science. But what's much more important are projects that people are working on to get more information or to make changes. And right now, they need those 21st century skills of collaboration and communication skills, that empathy and sympathy, critical thinking and problem solving all need to come together in what we're facing right now and in the future, because maybe it won't be a crisis, but there are tons and tons of projects and problems that need to be worked on in one large group and in different projects that we're going to have to overlap and come together. And we need to be able to do algorithmic thinking. We need to be able to show a process that we can go through and go back through and repeat and iterate so that we're really giving people the opportunity to make changes and not think that the first idea is the only idea. In computational thinking, that is really only a portion of computer science, just like only coding is a portion of computer science, but it all comes together. And those skills are going to be what we need. We need that creativity within all of it. So what can you do at home now? What can students and teachers be doing at home now? Well, certainly there are unplugged activities, and those are activities that you can do without a computer that help you get computational thinking motivated by kids to have fun at the same time that they are really working in that, okay, step-by-step processes. Can you change things around? How does that affect what's going on in that space? So the other thing that we need to do is look at quality online resources, because there are thousands of resources out there and people are putting up more and more every day. But you need to be able to say, well, as a district administrator, I am going to have to make some recommendations to my schools or for my district, and you need to be sure that what you're going to suggest is appropriate and is something that you are going to be proud of, and that's not going to come up with a problem based on, oh, well, they're trying to take student information, or, oh, that is not appropriate material for my students. Things like that can really put a jinx into the problem, solving that you've been doing. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Betsy.
Hi, Kelly. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Great. Okay. So I appreciate the lead in here to what we're going to be talking about. And one of the things we're looking at is people who don't have any experience teaching computer science at home. What can they do, and how can they incorporate some of this learning and keep these skills going? Because as you know, there's a lot of materials already produced, already out there, a lot of games and fun activities. But you know, as educators, we're more concerned with making sure that we're on target with meeting our standards and our objectives, and that we keep students on track with what we're doing in the education system. So there's a number of unplugged activities that parents and families can do at home together. The students can even create their own activities and play with their family. I was going to say with friends, but we can't do that right now with social distancing. But you just start with an objective that you want to learn. There's a lot in computer science that can be done, you know, unplugged. Basically, an algorithm is a step-by-step guide for a computer to accomplish a task, as you know. So you can do a lot of things like sequencing, making a peanut butter sandwich and decomposing the steps of that, learning about binary numbers and abstraction. So you kind of come up with an objective that you want to learn, and then maybe go online and search and see if there's a game or activity that one of these resources has already developed, and build the skill from there. For instance, you could do with materials around the house, progressing through a maze, you know, telling one of your family members to go left two times and then turn around and go right, and you know, give them a series of steps to follow as they go through a maze. Building and finding patterns, and maybe they could, if they're a middle school student or above, maybe they could color code their calendar. You know, what days they have math, what days they have English, you know, in their school, so they could color code their calendar that way. There's some fun activities I like, creating their name using binary numbers, so they can learn about the binary system for computers. And if they're older and want to learn about routing and switching and IP addressing with networking, you could do a post office game. So there's lots you can do, unplugged activities. We were also going to talk about, you know, where to start when it comes to online resources. And there's a couple that we've noted here. And Scratch, obviously, I think a lot of students, at least in our district, are very familiar with Scratch programming. And then the code.org curriculum, which, you know, goes all the way from pre-kindergarten up through the AP courses. So there's a lot of activities there that the students can do. One thing I'll mention about code.org is that they have recently come out with a code break. I think the first one just happened today at 1 p.m. It's a live weekly webcast where their team will teach your children at home while school is closed. And they give them a weekly challenge to engage them at all abilities and even without using computers. So there you go. Code.org, it's called code.org/break. And that's at 1 p.m. It started today, and you can find more information about that on their website. Kelly, do you want to talk about the LEGO education activities?
Certainly. Now, we understand that not everyone is going to have a LEGO education product back at home, but what we've done is we have created a lot of lessons and activities that can be done at home with whatever materials you have. If you have loose bricks or if you do not, if you just have found materials in the home. And so we have put together and will continue to add to it a lot of activities for doing at home. They are many related to computer science. There are others related to physical science. So we recommend that you look through that. These are, in some cases, attached to standards. Not always, but sometimes they are, depending on what they're doing. And they are by grade level. So you can go in and look at the different age lessons for children.
Great. Okay, so Kelly, as you and I were planning this talk, we really wanted to go over the importance of vetting resources. And in my district, I've spent the better part of the last 6 months making sure that resources that are being used in the classroom and across our district are complying with our general use guidelines that we have in our system, and also complying with federal and state laws. So it's important that we do vet these resources. Our technology department is more experienced looking at and vetting these, but we certainly want to, as educators, do our due diligence in recommending which resources and online tools should get looked at a little more closely. So I was going to spend a few minutes talking about that. But as it happens, this morning there was an email that I got from an organization called iKeepSafe, Internet Keep Safe, which is a national coalition that promotes the safe use of technology for students. And they actually have a list of resources and providers, products really, that they have certified that is safe to use and that meets the federal and state privacy laws. So that is iKeepSafe. I think we're going to put a link up after the broadcast today. So I thought that list of certified products was especially helpful. But they also have developed in partnership with Michigan Department of Education, a free online professional development course for educators to help educators learn about student data privacy across K through 12. This is appropriate for administrators, for school and staff board members, for all teachers really, and it just gives you some basic information about the concerns with student privacy and how to keep their data safe. The courses are only about 30 minutes each. I did one this morning, as a matter of fact, but it really gives you a good place to start with making sure that your educators are up to speed on this. But back to the vetting process, I think the main thing to look for are some of the things that you've already mentioned, Kelly. You know, age restrictions. What is most of the websites, if they are compliant with the federal FERPA or COPA laws, which protect minors and their identity online, should be appropriate for at least up to age 13. After age 13, then we get into another realm, and we need to make sure that our students are still protected, because many of our students are still under the age of 16 all the way through high school. And so we do need to safeguard their data and understand any use of what happens to their data online. Let's see. Financial obligations. Most of the sites are free. There are obviously some that right now have made themselves free temporarily, but there's the catch that after a certain amount of time that they may implement a cost or a subscription cost to using their products. So you need to be aware as you're vetting these products of what that obligation might be. How this data is collected and used. If it is a free site, it might depend on advertisements. And so are those third-party is the data from the student used and sold to these third-party vendors in any way, which would be against the law, so they really need to be vetted for that. So when it gets back to the site and what I look for beyond vetting is, does the site align to any educational standards? Because after all, we're trying to make sure this is used instructionally to support our educational objectives and resources, and so we don't want something that's not aligned to some of the courses that we have. So in computer science, in the state of Maryland, we have computer science standards, K through 12, which more or less align to the Computer Science Teachers of America resources and the K through 12 computer science framework. But other endorsements and partners are just as good, like National Science and ISTE. So you look for these these partners, these supporters that vet these curriculum providers and make sure that they align. And then I have what I call user friendliness and user support, where when I'm looking at a product, does it have visual appeal so that the student will stay engaged throughout the course and have enough interaction within that curriculum that they have activities and things to promote different types of learning. You know, not all our students learn the same way, as you know, Kelly, and so we want to make sure that our students have a variety of activities that keep them engaged throughout the course that will drive to their particular learning style. And so we want that user-focused participation.
All right, I'm going to go through a few things about selecting the tools. And one is that we definitely want a tool to grow with students. We don't want it to be, I'm going to use this for the next, 2 weeks and then I've outgrown it. It should be something that grows with your students. Secondly, we should find that it's an easy start for your students and your teachers. So it shouldn't be something that it has a long learning curve to get into where the teacher needs to be doing a lot of instruction on how you can start this program. There should be mediums for both creativity and exploration. If you have read Lifelong Learning by Mitch Resnick, or Lifelong Kindergarten by Mitch Resnick, one of the things that I think stands out is that he said there are a lot of products on the market right now, and he was talking mostly about toys, but I think it applies here, that they were made really with a lot of creativity in them. So they are super creative. However, when what the student is going to do with them is just not creative. They're going to go through and they're going to see a lot of really creative things, but they don't get to do creation and they don't get to do exploration. They are just interacting with that particular medium that looks great. So I think that's something to really look for. Are the kids themselves being able to be creative? Are they being able to explore? Again, things should be successful to come in at multiple skill levels. You should be able to come into something new as a beginner, as an intermediate, or an advanced, and have that platform push you a little at a time to get to the next level. So they should be providing experiences that show the quality of work by the student is improving as time goes by. So what they're doing today should be a little bit better tomorrow. They should learn a little bit more, add in a little bit more. And one of the things that I see in that is to be able to have problem solving and risk taking and perseverance. At first, kids are a little bit hesitant to take a risk, and they need to learn through that process, especially with computer science, that taking a risk and trying something, if it doesn't work, that's okay because you've learned from something that didn't work and now you're going to try something new. And it's okay to collaborate. It's okay to ask somebody else. And if they're on the computer and they're doing some of that, they can chat, which we know they are, between kids and text. It also allows students to show an understanding across disciplines. So we're not looking at computer science as just, I'm going to have computer science. It should be that we're utilizing that across curriculum. I want to be able to use computer science. Maybe I'm going into Scratch, and I'm going to create the coolest game ever. And it's going to utilize my skills in literature and language. It's going to utilize maybe social studies skills. It's going to maybe use some math skills, depending on how they want to move their pieces around. They're definitely going to have to use math. So it just depends on what you're trying to do, but many, many things should have computer science incorporated into them to keep the engagement level high, to keep that creation and exploration levels high, which keeps engagement on top and focus. And so the kids, when they have that passion about something, whether it's creating a game for other people to use, or whether they're incorporating it in an activity that they've already been doing, maybe they're, instead of creating a game, maybe they're creating a story about what's it like to learn from home, and what's it like to be home with mom or mom and dad. So those are kind of things that we can utilize the computer science for. And we want to remember that computer science, just like Lego bricks or Lego robotics, are a medium for creation and a medium for exploration. And we can show understanding of computer science, of physical science in different disciplines by the way that we use those tools that we're given. So what's happening today with the coronavirus and closing of schools is not, we really haven't fully realized the lasting impact of that. And so we may be seeing the beginning of a complete change in the way that education is going to be handled in the future. And I think that is something that we need to have in the back of our mind, that what am I going to take away from this segment to move forward into the future? And whatever we do now needs to be purposeful. So thank you very much for joining us. And Jason or Kurt, I believe you're going to come back in.
Yes, thank you so much. We really appreciate that. I know you had some Lego resources here, Kelly.
Oh, yes. And we have put up on our site the lessons, and that we normally have. All of our resources are free, and you can get to those. And then you have the new homeschool lessons that we are putting up individually. And we do have a continuum that goes from early learning through primary and secondary all the way through to high school. And in fact, our products are used in that college level. And you can always follow us on what new things are going on. And we'd love to have your comments and questions directed towards us. And so you can connect with us at LinkedIn.
Great. Thank you so much. Kelly and Betsy, I know you had a lot of great things to cover there. We tried to keep it to a limited amount of time here. And just to reiterate again what Kelly said, you can follow Lego Education through a variety of social media here. They've made these things available. You can connect with them. Kelly's on LinkedIn, as you said. And yes, a couple other reminders. We did get some questions about accessing the slides and these resources later on. Yes, everybody who registered will be getting follow-ups with links to the slides. And we're getting some questions about asking if this is recorded. And yes, this is being recorded. It'll be archived on the DA site, so you'll be able to go back over it. Everyone will be getting, again, a follow-up email with links to the recording and the slides as well, if you want to access those. Another reminder here, if you do have a question, feel free to enter it in the Q&A, bottom right-hand corner there. And we'll get to as many as we can here. First question, while you were speaking early on, Betsy, it says, what were those websites again you spoke of regarding vetting resources? I can even go back to that slide here.
Okay, I don't know if that was on the slide. I don't think that was on the slides because I mentioned it came through an email today, but it is iKeepSafe.com.
Okay, iKeepSafe, sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had these initial links as well here.
Oh, yeah. Scratch is a resource for online learning, and it's co.org. Oh, I might have
Okay, great.
mentioned CS Unplugged as well for the unplugged activities. Unplugged.org.
Okay, and then again, so like I Keep Safe, what does that help you to do there? That site that's vetting resources for different grade
Yeah.
levels?
Yes, it's a national coalition that certifies technology used by children and in education with qualified experts. So they have helped vendors meet the standards that are required for compliance by federal and state laws. So they have a list on the website of certified products. And some of those certified products are platforms that you could use in your district to connect like all of your online learning onto. And so I'm not familiar with it's a long, long list, but basically they have kind of done the legwork for us in terms of vetting some of those products.
Okay, sure. Yeah, it sounds very useful. Let's see, to our audience, we're getting some questions in the chat panel, but if you would go ahead and put those in the Q&A, not the chat, but put your questions in the Q&A. It makes it more organized for us, puts it into a queue for us. So just be sure to do that. Getting some comments from people. Thanks for these resources. They look great. They'll be making use of them. So that's great to hear. Betsy, maybe could you tell us more about what you're doing in your district with computer science in middle school? You talked about it some, I think, in grades 6 to 8, and maybe what you're doing now.
Okay. Well, as you know, originally this talk was going to be focused on the expansion of STEM learning, specifically to the middle school programs. And for a number of years, our focus has been on increasing coding at the high school level. And the middle schools were doing more or less computer applications and a little bit of scratch coding, maybe a little bit of robotics here and there, but not widespread. And so what we tried to do is create some STEM courses that integrated a little bit of coding with technology design concepts and engineering basics. And so we have a grade 6 and a grade 7 course that kind of touches all those touch points before the 8th grade. We want to integrate computational learning, computational thinking in each of those courses so that it builds on itself, so that by 8th grade they're ready to launch into, either they might have more of an interest in IT, computer science, or maybe they want to explore engineering before they get to our high schools. Our high schools have a lot of career technology programs in the various high schools. And this just gives our students a little extra edge towards prioritizing their learning in high school and selecting those elective courses that would be more in line with what they want to do in their future. So in line with that, what we tried to do is include a little bit of little hand-on robotics learning as well, so that students can put some practical application to their coding.
Okay, interesting. And then, so how are you dealing with? Are your schools closed now? Are you doing things remotely and at home?
Well, we just heard today that we were going to remain closed at least until April 24th. And, I'm learning a great deal as this situation unfolds. And honestly, I'm following the leaders in my district who are really wrestling with these decisions and are looking at, a myriad of factors that go into what needs to be in place for any online learning. We're fortunate, though, with computer science that so much of it has already been made available. And so for me, I've shifted from, putting this in the hand of our educators, our very capable educators, who some of whom have already used, remember the expression flipped classroom, where they have basically shifted the students' homework time from merely doing worksheets or problem sets or reviewing material that was taught during the day to pre-learning by watching a lecture or a video or some kind of material at home. And then when they would go to classroom, they would engage more hands-on or in a collaborative group or some type of extension of that learning. So that shift kind of, I think, set the stage for this to be much more effective if it comes to pass, that the shift to online learning is the potential main medium. But we still don't know how long this situation is going to be, what is going to be asked of our educators. Our district leaders are ironing that out as we speak, and so there could be a message out within the next few minutes about how that's exactly going to look for our educators and our teachers who are sidelined right now. So we've just been prepping for long-term and short-term scenarios, if you will, making sure we have resources and what will be in place should this situation occur, or what do we need to do in case this situation occurs. And so much of it still needs to be developed, but obviously looking at all this online options that we have, some of our courses already used online curriculum, making sure that that can be accessed by all students. All these considerations are things that we are creating scenarios to answer right now, but we have not deployed yet until all these things have been addressed.
Sure. Yeah, just like a lot of districts, a lot of schools are figuring it out here and doing the best that we can. Interesting. Thank you. Let's see. Some more questions. A couple asking about basically diverse learners. Betsy, are you doing anything when it comes to diverse learning styles, learning
There was a second
disabilities?
part to that question.
Yeah.
Diverse
Anything?
learners,
Mhm.
yes, and that's not my area of expertise. Again, I think that's being addressed at a higher level, and so I don't really know the answer to that. But in terms
Okay.
of the resources that are out there that we've talked about today, I think you do have to search and vet these products and see if you think that they meet the needs or not. And a lot of these organizations, if you write to them and ask them, for suggestions for how to implement these resources for the diverse learners, they might be able to point you in some directions that I'm not aware of and give you some resources.
If I can jump in here, one of the things that I would look for in different products or programs and stuff is something that starts with a low floor but has a high ceiling and wide walls, so that you can come into that program wherever you are, and that the way that the lessons are structured or the activities are structured is that it meets the needs of a lot of different types of learners, so that you are engaging the person who needs to read, the person who needs to talk, the person who needs to interact with somebody else, the person who needs to work with something physically. So I think that's an important part of looking through those lessons and activities and sites and evaluating.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Great advice. Thank you. Okay. Well, it looks like I believe we've hit all of our questions here. Thanks to our audience, everyone, for your participation in our discussion here. So I'll wrap things up here on behalf of District Administration. I'd like to thank our speakers for today, Betsy and Kelly. Thank you both so much for being with us today. And thank you to our sponsor for today, once again, Lego Education. And to all of you in our audience, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you found our webinar informative and useful to you. Producing web seminars like this one is just part of our mission here at DA to inform school district leaders like you about the latest news and trends in K-12 management. You'll find more coverage about issues such as the ones we discussed here in the pages of our print magazine, as well as our digital edition and website, through additional webinars like this one, and through our various email newsletters, which you can sign up for right from our website. And as I mentioned before, for those of you who would like to share this event with your colleagues, or if you want to go back over the presentation at your own pace, you can access it from our website by going to the URL on your screen here, where it'll be posted as an archive recording. And if you'd like to download our speaker slides, you'll find instructions and a link in a thank you email that you receive later on today. So keep an eye out for that. You'll be able to access all the content. So that's it for today's event. Once again, I'm Kurt Isley Durley for District Administration on behalf of everyone here at DA and our production team. Goodbye, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks so much for joining us today.